we're going to get started. Welcome to Enabling Digital Transformation Using Strategic Architecture. We are so excited to have you here today. And I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present. I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us here today. So, we're going to get started, but before we do, you're probably going to hate me a little bit. I'm going to ask that all of you pull out your phones and pop them on Do Not Disturb. So not silent, but Do Not Disturb. I'd like to introduce you to our Managing Director, Nigel Schmalkuche. Woo!
Okay. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. So the topic is Enabling Digital Transformation with Strategic Architecture. And a lot of you guys are involved with digital transformation at the moment, so I'll be trying to get a bit of feedback as we go to make sure that we've got the right approach. I'll be talking for a while, and then Jackie will be getting us into the zone, and then we'll be finishing off with Jazz with a bit of project delivery information. Just to start, I wanted to start from a point of view of looking at some of the challenges that we face with digital transformation. And one of the things we're trying to do is to go to more people-driven, people-centric, that human-centered design approach that we keep talking about. So how do we move to that approach when government is pretty much a top-down delivery? Let's get that information out there. So I find that's one of the challenges. Another challenge is sharing data across government. There's a need to share that information, but how do we put in the right security controls? How do we put in the right data governance in place and the right rules to enable that to happen without affecting the privacy and information needs? Next one, increasing use of digital technologies. So we know that there's a lot of new technologies coming on the market. There's a lot of emerging trends. There's a lot of move to digital platforms, but how do we make sure that that's done in a sense where there's no cyber security attacks or limit the risk of cyber security attacks as we go. Low level of digital literacy. How do we get people across the line? How do we get them to understand digital? How do we get them across that? Sometimes you've got people that, they don't necessarily like these green screen old systems, but they know them. So how do we get them to embrace the new digital literacy and also data literacy as well? Ever-changing technology landscape. I ran an AI workshop the other day and everyone was talking about ChatGPT. How do we use it? Acceptable use of AI, that sort of thing. So how do we bring on board these technologies without endangering some of the core business skills that we need to keep attached? And delivering services efficiently and cost effectively. How do we do that? How do we ensure that we've got a seamless, integrated customer experience while we've got budgetary concerns that we need to take into account? So they're just some of those challenges. Now this is an important slide, so you may have to remember some of those, but just have a think about some of that information and as we go. I've got opportunities and benefits as well. So when you have challenges, the opposite to that is obviously opportunities as benefits. So the use of digital technologies can have a range of benefits that we sort of mention here. One of the big ones is that greater engagement with citizens that we're able to do. So we're able to do a lot more these days with digital transformation, engaging, doing customer workshops, customer journey workshops, and better understand it. We're able to give people more through the use of digital services and being able to provide a lot more than we used to. Increase security through digital platforms when you've got up-to-date software actually prevents some of that cyber security. So you've got to realise that that's an opportunity as well as a threat. So with the enterprise architecture approach, we're looking at the strategic architecture approach, which is a lot more sort of a higher level, more executive and more of a look right across the organisation. So if we look at this diagram, we basically say that the strategic architecture approach is that long-term view of the organisation. It looks at the long-term view and also looks right at the organisation wide. So if we look at the three boxes that we've got there, we've got, say, a digital strategy is being delivered, and you're through your enterprise architecture approach, you're making that understandable for the project delivery, the programs and the project delivery. When you're doing the programs and project delivery, the project managers here will know that they're updating things, they're achieving things that then needs to come back to the enterprise architecture to update, and then the enterprise architecture needs to make that in a way that people can understand, particularly executives. So the strategy might have to change once the projects and the customers are interviewed, etc., down the bottom. And then the strategy needs to inform the project. So looking at it from a holistic fashion, you can see that the strategic architecture has that approach of being able to bring those three together. This is the strategic architecture approach, and I've got 10 steps there, but essentially you're going from a strategic zone of developing the strategy right down through to the delivery. Now, at this point, I find that getting into the way of doing a strategy and being able to come up with the principles to get in the zone. So I'll hand over to Jackie.
Thanks, Nige. Okay, so I'm going to be speaking about getting into the strategy zone, how to do that, and we're going to run through a couple of exercises. But the thing is, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So what we're going to do is we'll do 2 breathing exercises into a visualization, and I just want you to just see how it works for you, and then take those exercises and test drive them outside of here. So you can get into the strategy zone in so many different ways. For me personally, I have this thing where I like to see other people working, but I don't like to hear them. So I'll sit in a cafe where there's lots of other people, lots of busyness. I'll pop on my noise cancelling headphones and I'll listen to binaural beats. So I'll come back to binaural beats, but being able to see other people working and the energy, but not hearing them, allows me to stay within my mind, so be able to work properly. As for binaural beats, can I get a show of hands to see who's heard of binaural beats before? A couple of you, amazing. So binaural beats are this amazing audio experience that have been created for humans. It works with very particular frequencies, and those frequencies then get you into particular zones. So my personal favorite is the zone for focus. So you can have binaural beats for focus. You can have binaural beats for deep sleep, binaural beats for happiness, for excitement. You can get pretty much anything. The thing with binaural beats though is that you must be wearing headphones or earphones, because there's particular frequencies that are going in through left and right ear. So give that a go. Next time you're on your own and really need to get in the zone, just jump on Spotify and search up binaural beats focus, and my head might pop up and because I love them so much. So give those a go. Now, with the exercises that we're doing today, they are based on breath. So breathing is one of the first things we do and one of the last things we do when we're here on Earth. But as we get older, it's actually one of the things that we forget how to do properly. So when someone tells you to take a big deep breath in, we often see this, right? So chest puffed out, belly in, shoulders up. That's actually incorrect. It should look like this. Just your belly moving. I don't want to see any flat tummies in here today. Flat tummies are out. I want sticky outy tummies full of breath, okay? There's to be no movement with your chest and shoulders when we're breathing properly. That means the breath is going deep into your diaphragm, and that's where you're going to get all the benefits of a good breath. If you're breathing up here in your chest, which is where we can often sit with our breath, that could be a minor form of hyperventilation. It's really hard to catch your breath. You often find that you have to do a double inhale, to really feel like you've taken in enough breath. So that's why we focus way down here in our belly. So that's something we're going to be focusing on. Now, if you've ever seen a baby cry before, a baby that's just in a nappy, when they're crying, every inhale, their tummy goes vroom, And then every exhale as they cry, it goes in. You don't see their shoulders or chest moving. So that's what I'd like for all of you to keep in mind today. I'm not going to ask you to take your tops off and make you cry, absolutely not. But just keep that idea in mind, a baby crying, okay, and the way that their tummy moves. So that's kind of the main thing of breath that we'll be focusing on. Now, as for the exercise that we'll be doing today, it comes in two parts. There's going to be a grounding aspect, and then there's going to be an activation aspect. All I need you guys to do is just sit exactly where you are and just listen and let me guide you through it, okay? It's going to be as simple as that. So the way that the actual exercise will work is we will inhale for 5 counts, but I'll count them for you. We'll hold that inhale for 5 counts. We'll exhale for 5 counts, and we'll hold for 5 counts. I'll count you through everything, and I'll also tell you when we're coming towards the end, okay? So to get started, I'm going to ask that everyone has their feet flat on the ground. And if you can, anything that's in your hands or in your lap, if you can just pop it on the floor next to you or in front of you, and just let your hands rest in your lap. Now I want you to push up against the backrest, really feel where it is, and feel your core disengage. So there's nothing being held in your tummy, okay? Good. Now just notice, actually I want you to all close your eyes. Close your eyes for me. And just notice your breath. Notice the location that's moving as you inhale and exhale. Is your tummy moving? Or is more your chest moving? Just notice it. If it's your chest that's moving, I want you to try make some changes so that it's only your belly. Your belly in, your belly out. Don't stick to any particular rhythm, just let the breathing rhythm come naturally. That's it. Now I want you to continue breathing that way, just nice and deeply into your belly, nice and easy. And I'm going to talk about a noisy breath. So when we're taking an inhale, a lot of people think that a noisy breath is a good breath. It's actually the opposite. A nice deep breath should be silent. A noisy breath, despite, if you, maybe sinus issues are irrelevant, but if you don't have sinus issues, a noisy breath means that you're constricting the back of your throat. So I want you to just continue breathing with your eyes closed, nice and quiet, in and out, in and out. That's it. Now all together, we're going to exhale all of that air. Let it all go. Let all that go. And together we're going to start the breathing exercise. So you're going to inhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. Now keep the exhale going. Keep it going. Keep going. Exhale everything out, and then hold at the bottom when you've got nothing left to hold, nothing left to exhale. And as you're holding your breath, I want you to feel some energy that's starting to pump around your breath. Don't worry, we're not holding it long. Start feeling maybe a pulsing sensation inside your body. Just hold that breath, hold that breath, hold that breath. And now big inhale all together into your belly. There we go. And hold it at the top. Hold that inhale. And again, just let that energy float around your body. Feel that pulse. You're gonna let it go in a second. Just hold on to it for me. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Feel that pulsing, hold on, and let it go. Return to normal breathing. Keep your eyes closed for me. And I can see some bellies moving in this room. Amazing. With your eyes closed, can I get a show of hands who feels like their belly is definitely doing more of the work with their breath now? Amazing. Thank you. Pop them down. Can I get a show of hands who is feeling a bit more grounded now compared to when they first walked in the door? Great. And what about mental clarity? Who here feels like they might be a bit more sharp, or they could just dive into work now after that breathing exercise? Pop your hands up if that's you. Amazing. Open your eyes. So there was probably about 70% of the room that said yes to that exercise. And hey, I'm going to take that. So the breath is very underutilized, and it can be a simple exercise just like that. There can be the difference between going into a meeting grounded and ready to work and being that flightiness, that flightiness if you've just been running here, there and everywhere, because we're busy, right? So of course our breath is going to lift. Of course our energy is going to be all over the place. So if we have tools where we can really ground ourselves in our work and even just ground ourselves before going into a meeting, we can then take that energy and help spread it throughout the meeting itself. So that's just one of the exercises that can be done on your own, but also as a group if you're trying to get the entire group into a particular strategy meeting and just want to ground each other before you go into it. So we're going to do another exercise now. Now this is just a visualization exercise, but I'd like to start with feet on the ground again. Nothing in your lap, so hands in your lap. And I want you to close your eyes. So as you close your eyes, go back to that belly breathing that we were just doing. And notice maybe your breath might have crept up into your chest a little bit. That's okay. It takes practice to learn how to breathe with your belly all the time. So if your breath has crept up into your chest, just let it go back into your belly. So with your feet flat on the ground and your focus back on your breath, I want you to visualize where your phone is sitting. We're not going to touch it, but just visualize where it's sitting at the moment. And imagine that you go to pick it up. So just imagine that you go to pick up your phone and it's now in your hand. I want you to unlock your phone. And the first thing that appears on the screen is a little challenge that you're having at the moment. So Nigel mentioned earlier some common challenges to consider around digital transformation in developing and implementing the strategy. Maybe think about something like that might appear on your phone. Now, when I say appear, that challenge, that problem, that can take any form, any shape. It could be a blob that you can see on your phone. It could be a landscape. It could be a face. but give the challenge or the problem a visual identity. Now, as you're looking at your problem and it's taken shape, whatever that shape may be, I want you to imagine that you're using your fingers to zoom out. So the problem is like a picture, and you're going to use your fingers to zoom out on the problem, just nice and slowly. And as you're zooming out, check in with your breath. Is it in your belly? Keep zooming out, and as you are, there's other things that are coming into view. Other problems or challenges or struggles that might relate to this digital challenge that you're having. Don't question anything, just let anything come into view. So keep zooming out as more shapes appear, more problems appear. Keep zooming, keep identifying what's coming into view on your screen. And when you feel like you can't zoom anymore, take a moment to just view everything on that phone screen in front of you. So as Nigel mentioned before, some common challenges to consider in digital transformation, in developing and implementing the digital strategy. Think of just that one challenge that popped into your head. And I would now like to have you all open your eyes.
This is probably a good step from that, is that consult and to strategise, and really the strategic architecture approach is all about that, is to consult from the very beginning, particularly with your sponsor and your guiding team, and then come up with a straw man, they call it, a high level strategy. It could be a value proposition like you're talking about. Come up with that early and get that some sort of agreement on that before you can go through with some of your themes, your principles, and drafting up your strategy. So I think sometimes strategies are done in a room just full of some people, but it needs to really be across the organisation. The other thing that's important with and taking that strategic approach is to understand the full picture, because when you're say you're working on a particular, we could be working on a particular consultancy, you need to understand the full picture and get that full picture back to the your program board or your executive, so that they can reveal it. So it's a bit like the the iceberg behind it. Like they just see the top view. They might be just seeing the the program highlight reports and that sort of stuff, but they need to understand the full picture. But then again, you need to be able to summarise that full picture and be able to lift that up to the main points, and those executive summaries and stuff that you can do. Just put together some digital transformation principles, and there's a fair bit of content now. This presentation was going to have all the content, and where are you, Bruce? This was going to be the summary, but now this is the detail, and this is the summary, because we were only going to have a couple of pages, and we ended up with 48. So there you go. So principles there. These are all in the book for you. One of the big things that we've found is this human-centred design approach, and I think government's definitely shifting towards that, and some of the big departments are. And that human-centred design approach is very important early and often, and to be able to encapsulate that. And we just got some of the steps there, from planning right through to implement and evaluation. And there's some experts in the room here on human-centred design. I just wanted to bring this up, the data insight action sort of framework. And one of the good things about being able to talk to this is to be able to show, okay, it is quite difficult to go from the realms of data that you have in your department or your council, and be able to bring that up into actionable insights. It does take a lot of work, and sometimes you need to explain that, I think, to get that through to people to understand the different levels, because it data in itself can be raw and unorganised, and it needs to have that context attached to it. One of the other things about this, you'd like this one, Adam, is the emerging trends and technologies and trends that are out there. So how can we utilise all that emerging trends, and how can we pick the right technology for the right problem that we're going to be solving? So there's so many out there, and I've just listed some of those. Sometimes it can be just a QR code that you need to get in the hands of a contractor to be able to use that technology, and then sometimes it could be something more sophisticated. But there are all these emerging trends out there, and when you introduce a lot of these trends, say the Internet of Things, you actually open up your organisation as well. We've all heard about that example in the States around the fish tank, people getting into the fish tank in the casino. So there was a sensor in this fish tank, and that was the way they got into the casino to do that cyber security threat. So these are great trends, but you've got to make sure you implement them successfully. The digital capability maturity model, I just thought I'd bring that up because it's good to have that people, process, information, technology approach when you're implementing digital transformation. And it's also good to make sure that you do the right steps. You don't want to go from level 0 to level 5 and end up with an app on a phone that does great things but doesn't connect to anything, you know what I mean? You have to actually do the right steps and take the time to uplift both people, process, information and technology together. Analysing the strategic ICT portfolio, that can be a big job sometimes, but it's very useful to be able to look at all your applications and your technologies and understand what they bring to bed, whether they're going to be in the future, whether they're going to be replaced, or whether they're going to be just in a read-only type method for the future. So we've got a methodology by which we start from the large lots of applications and technologies, have that stakeholder engagement to come down to recommendations. And digital platforms, so leveraging digital platforms coming from your bespoke sort of systems and applications that don't necessarily talk to each other. And there's plenty still out there that require one-to-one integrations. It requires lots of ways of being able to utilise that. The digital platforms of the future have the data system and process ability to integrate, some natively through the cloud, and the move towards digital platforms is here. But which of the digital platforms should we go with, and which are the best for your strategic outcomes in the long term? But it's definitely that move towards it. That's the digital platform diagram I've got there is related to the Gartner one that was produced in 2017 for government. It's also been adopted in Queensland Health as well as the platform-based approach. And we've talked a bit about cyber security controls. We're currently getting certified in ISO 27001, and there's a lot of sensible controls that you can bring in, but effectively you don't want to attach with your data, you don't want to attach the same controls for all data. 80 to 90% of the data can be shared freely. It's that the 10% that is really where the privacy issues that can't be shared or needs to have these specific security controls attached to it. So by looking at all the data that you've got in place, and that could be in transit or could be stored, apply the direct security controls. Andrew, this is I've quickly done the line of sight approach here. So I think the line of sight approach really is a good approach when you're looking from strategy right through to transformation projects. You've got the ability to look at that strategy framework. You've got the ability for the architecture framework and the project delivery side, and be able to marry it up and provide that view for executives that can be able to see all of that together. And there's a bit more information in the booklet on this, but essentially your architecture is that bridging the gap between the projects and the strategy. Now, I'm handing over to Jazz.
All right, let's do
Yes.
this. I don't know about you guys, I feel very zen from the strategy zone. And I'm going to talk about project and program management, which is pretty like Rocky Balboa style, getting the energy up. I've only got 2 slides, but I will be quick. Hello, everybody. For those who I haven't met before, I'm Jasmine O'Reilly, and I have the pleasure of working with Nigel and the Strategic Architects team to put a big warm hug around program governance and management and delivering projects and strategic initiatives. Because, like they say in the movies, don't put strategy in the corner. It's the heartbreaking thing. I don't know about you, but I have seen so many good strategies just sit on a shelf or a digital shelf, collect dust and not see the light of day. And this is where your project and your program management comes to play, because we bring it to life. We are the rock stars of strategy, just saying. Now, I'm here to talk about the 5 keys to governing and leading a successful digital portfolio, of which there are many more, but the first one is program management. In a nutshell, if you don't know what program management is, it is having a succinct roadmap of activities verified by the business and everyone's loving with the KPIs, having a budget, a schedule of very well-scoped projects, and a killer team to make them happen. And this can be over a 1, 3, 5, 10-year horizon, your program of work. So have some controls in place. The second item is change management, and these aren't in order of priority. And this is an area I'm particularly very passionate about, because change management should not be something you bolt on to the end of your project or your program. It should happen throughout the process. In fact, it should happen in the strategy zone, where you're engaging people and having that people first mindset and mantra and checking in with them along the way, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Governance and quality. Did anyone read that and shriek a little bit? Most people do, go like this. Having good governance structures in place and having good quality criteria, I tell you, it will set you free. Don't be afraid of governance and quality. Don't be afraid of a project status report or a true RAG status of your indicators. I'll admit, as a project and program manager, you hesitate when you put the amber and the red status on there. Anyone else feeling that? But it's essential. It's what you need to do. So have your right governance committees, have your quality criteria, and report truly and warmly on the status of your projects and your program. The fourth area that Nigel likes to talk to are centres of excellence, which in a nutshell is having dedicated, very skilled people available that you can tap into to deliver your projects. That's a luxury sometimes. Sometimes you have to use people who have a day job, BAU, and that can be one of the biggest challenges in delivering a digital strategy. But if you can, have dedicated resource or hire awesome people like Nigel and his team. And last but not least, enterprise analysis. Now, all of these things should be a continuous process and something that you do regularly, but this one in particular. So go back, have a look, check in at that line of sight model. Is what you're doing when you get down to program and project management delivering on the strategy? The world changes, particularly if you're doing a long-term strategy. So check in regularly and on a continuous basis using some good governance structures, and you will ensure that you are delivering what you need to, or you'll need to change things. That's absolutely fine as well. Nigel's moving me along, don't mind it. This is my last slide, I promise. So how do we practically apply this? What we've got here is, I like to call the zombie diagram, where we've mushed together design thinking, lean startup, and the agile methodologies into one beautiful diagram. And this is how you bring your strategy to life. Now, before I go through this, I just want to stress, you've probably heard me say it a few times today, people, people, people first, and regularly. And it all starts at the front end, which is design thinking. So using this approach to essentially source your solution. And I've got 3 big tips in a moment. Then as you move through to the execution phase, prototyping and having an iterative approach will make sure that you are delivering on your strategic objectives. I don't know about anyone else, there's that beautiful quote, I think from Washington, of sharpening the axe, but sometimes it's better to check in with your end users and your customers when you've only got an MVP solution, because by the time you get to the end, you're going to have a beautiful, beautiful product or a beautiful solution that you're executing in your business. So my 3 big tips that hopefully you remember, other than people, is First and foremost, I've got to remember my 3 big tips now. First and foremost, don't go into solution mode when you're in the strategy zone. Think big, blue sky, but don't have the answers. Who's got the answers? Anyone? Don't leave me hanging.
Customer.
Yes, Nigel, thank you. We should have planned that. Yes, ask the people, the end users, the customers, the people on the street tapping their go cards. Ask them, and better yet, observe them in their natural habitat. That is design thinking in a nutshell. My second tip, don't flick me, Nigel. My second tip is to choose progress over perfection. As I mentioned before, I've seen this many times. Years, sometimes months are spent perfecting a delivery, and then you launch it. How many people have seen a failed launch? You launch it and it is not what the people want. And no one's using my health record, and no one is using the new TMR solutions. So iterative approach, engage early and get some feedback along the way, and you'll end up with a much better use of your funding. And then my third tip is governance. As I mentioned before, don't be afraid of a governance committee. Don't be afraid of having structures in place. They will free you, they will liberate you. Face into them and embrace them for what they are. Do all of these things, stitch them into the culture of your organisation, and you will actually have a strategy that sees the dance floor, Dirty Dancing styles. So they're my top tips for today, and that's how you bring strategy to life.
Okay,
Thanks,
thanks, Jazz. Yeah, and with the last one, it really strengthens that focus on the people as well, embracing the change and improve. So I guess with any framework, you always have that continuous improvement and that information coming back to link to the strategy, to link to how you're producing your architecture outputs, and that can drive you to further change. Now, I thought I'd throw in an example here. And the main reason I threw this example in of a one-pager, just to show how the different parts of, people, process, information and technology, trying to, when you do a digital strategy, try to draw on some of those other corporate strategies that you've got. And by drawing on the corporate strategies, you get the CIO on board, you get, so the HR, the finance, etc. You get those different types of viewpoints, and you get them to understand it. And best of all, when you've got the strategy, is those strategic themes to actually come out of the words of the senior executive if you can. But probably the main things that come out of the talk today is, apart from your 3 points, Jazz, is the strategic thinking and making sure that when you're doing a strategy that you get in the zone and get that belly moving, as we say. So to get in that zone, have that strategic mindset. I think that's really important. It's key to focus on business outcomes, not necessarily how the technology is going to be implemented. That's all important, but to always focus on those strategic business outcomes as you go. And if you do that, you're going to be a lot more successful. The third one's probably adopt a human-centered design approach. So if you adopt that human-centered design approach with customer journey mapping, etc., but also link that directly to your strategy and your architecture and development work. Sometimes the customer journey planning, etc., is done over here, and the strategy and the architecture is done over there. It's got to be linked together to make sure that it's done appropriately. The next one's probably provide clarity for your senior executive. You've got that big iceberg, and you've got all these things happening. Make sure that they can understand and they can see that happening. And the last one is that capability-based approach, looking at the people, process, information and technology, uplifting all of those. Don't forget about your digital literacy when you're implementing technology. Don't forget about the processes. Involve people, say if you're doing a robotic process automation, involve those people that are going to be affected by the process change. And the same with the information. Make sure that your data and the information is looked at when you're looking at the digital change as well. And there's other ones there, but it's all in the booklet. I'd just like to say that these are our services, from enterprise architecture, digital strategy, to AI, data governance and architecture, cyber security now, and program delivery and the human-centred design approach, and we've got more information on those sort of services as well. Yes, yes.
It'll help your marketing.
Yes.
Give you an opportunity to tell us how you work. I'm keen to understand, if you guys get engaged, is your job to go and help someone's project, or do you get engaged to actually help the architecture team in an organisation improve the way they operate? Which or both?
Well, we've done several enterprise architecture engagements, but usually the best way would be for us to be involved in a strategy workshop, be able to develop the strategy, because that's where you make the most bang for buck, and then have an involving architecture approach as the program and projects are being delivered. And that can be just like a part-time thing, but just to make sure that it's doing according to strategy, doing according to architecture patterns. So thank you.